I'm Sean Fennessey.
I'm Amanda Dobbins.
And this is the Big Picture, a conversation show about the Golden Globes. We are joined on Hollywood's second biggest night by Joanna Robinson, who has been helping us recap the Golden Globes and the awards race all season long. Hi, Jo.
Hi, I'm thrilled to have Amanda back for this particular night, especially. One of the wildest, this is the most Hollywood being its most ridiculous self night, and who better but Amanda to share this moment with us.
When Joanna showed up on the screen, I started talking to her as if I had been seeing her regularly for the last 3 months, which I have in my head. I've been listening, but I realized that this is the first time I'm actually seeing you via screen anyway, since I left. So thank you. You've been doing a wonderful job. I'm thrilled to be here with you, to be able to share hot takes in person. And do we have hot takes or do we just have confusion?
Well, I think we have a confirmation of a new era of the Golden Globes, which is how I'd like to talk about this show with you guys. Well, it matters to what we do for a living when we talk about this stuff, right? I don't know that I emotionally care, but it is notable that things feel, if not radically different, they feel a little different than they have in the past. The Golden Globes, as the three of us have talked about many times over the years, are, while very notable and glitzy, kind of a joke. They're kind of a silly award show. They're the award show where the celebrities get drunk and they have really mean hosts who make fun of people to make us plebs at home feel better about ourselves. That's the wild and silly show where 80 people who don't live in this country, hobnob with celebrities and then they give them big gold statues. And now this is an award show where a vast collection of international and art house performers are given very stately prizes and deliver sincere speeches about the greatness of their works and the potential for art. That's not the Golden Globes. That isn't what they do. So this does feel different. Let me start by asking you this. Did you think it was a good show tonight?
I had a good time, but that is also because I, A, like awards shows, and B, am really happy to be among the land of adults. Just thank you so much for having me. As previously documented on this podcast, I learned who Nikki Glaser was on Thursday. That said, live on the podcast, just doing some Googling. That's great. Thought she was very funny. I chuckled at many of her jokes. I thought that the presenters were, as almost as always the case, hit and miss, and mostly miss, with a few times of me heckling the large screen, asking them to wrap it up. But funny moments. The presenters were also kind of a lot of the star power of the show, which is, I guess, the case at most awards shows. But I didn't feel like I got that much people mingling and mixing.
That's true.
At the Golden Globes. I mean, they had the interstitials. There was some hobnobbing, but there was no Taylor Swift and Selena Gomez exchanging gossip with 14 cameras on them like there was last year, for example. So there was just a lot of Hugh Grant and Jeremy Strong being seated at the same table right behind one of the presenting modules.
Yeah, you're number one boy, and me and Joanna's number one boy together.
I am concerned about Hugh Grant's back because he very politely was turned around 180 degrees in his seat for every single award. Your man doesn't miss, but also, like, he's getting on in age.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether...
You think maybe he had a girdle on? How do you think he was handling that?
No, I mean, what do you think a girdle does?
I don't know.
Do you know
we're
where
at the
it's
top
worn?
of the show. Let's not.
I
got to ask Joanna what she thought about the show. Just, let's just simmer down.
So it's okay. I don't know. Joanna,
it was
what
okay.
did you think?
What did you think, Joanna? Did you like the show?
I thought these are some of the worst presenter bits I've ever seen in all my years covering award shows. I thought Nikki was great. I thought her bits were actually great. And I hate a host bit, but I thought all of hers worked really well. I thought the monologue was like not the best I've ever seen, but really good. And I thought, we had a brief respite from the most embarrassing bits from presenters when Seth Rogen and Catherine O'Hara came up and their bit actually worked. And Seth Rogen called out the extremely terrible up close camera angle presenter situation that was in the room, which I loved. I had an okay time, a much better time in the back half when we got some genuine surprises. And to your point, Sean, they weren't surprises of like, that's the Globes being wacky. It's like, that's the Globes asserting itself as an international voting body and just like really pivoting strong European flavor in some of their surprise wins. So yeah, I liked it. I didn't love it. And to Amanda's point, I do think we used to get more just cameras roaming around the room. I think the thing they added this year where they did the little like pop-up map of where everyone was sitting was deeply uninteresting and didn't add anything to the enjoyment. And I think we're gonna have to wait for the in the room gossip from like the reporters that were in the room to give us like who was talking to whom, sort of, that we usually get from those milling around the audience glimpses at the Globes. The Globes are just nonsense, and so the celebrity nonsense is part of the enjoyment, or it should be.
Right.
You know?
It didn't seem like anyone was having that much fun. But again, maybe it was just the cameras were not focused on that.
Yeah, I felt like the first hour there was a kind of dead air quality to a lot of the presentation. I think the Globes, obviously, it's a television and film awards. We'll focus our conversations on the film winners tonight. But because of that, it's a very long show. It's got a lot of awards to give out. It's difficult to even fit bits in between the awards. There were mercifully no musical performances, but you're right that the kind of like atmospheric quality of the show was significantly reduced. I also think that we're in an interesting transitional stage star-wise, where we do have this very exciting young crop, some of whom were nominated tonight. You know, Zendaya was nominated tonight. Timothée Chalamet was nominated tonight. They didn't speak. They didn't come on stage. There were jokes made at their expense or very warmly at their expense. And the camera panned to them from time to time. But the show wasn't really about them. And I don't know that it was really about anything if you're looking for like a big theme. We can talk about what the actual awards wins mean, if anything. Historically, they don't usually mean a lot, the Globes. But it's notable to me that we're not quite in the like Meryl clapping and pointing era. We're not in the Jack Nicholson front row nodding as the mayor of Hollywood era. There's something, you know, as we all transition through the streaming experience and more people being interested in TikTokers than people who open movies, there's something unsettled about modern award shows right now. And I could feel it watching this one for the most part.
It felt very geriatric. Like the star power that was there was like, and like with love and respect to our older stars, but a lot of them, you know, like Michael Keaton or Sharon Stone or a number of the people who went up to speak, some of them were like struggling through, you know, reading the prompter or whatever.
Michael Keaton nailed every moment of his presentation.
Joanna,
and he looked
Amanda
great.
Started tearing her clothes off and throwing herself at the screen when Michael Keaton appeared.
Is really handling his later years with grace. And I
commented
on it.
Already completely disrobed when Andrew Garfield took the stage. I didn't know that there was like an article of clothing left.
We'll get there. Put a pin in Andrew Garfield, and Joanna and I are going to go through.
How many would like to put a pin in Andrew Garfield?
It felt the star power on stage felt older.
Yeah.
You know, that these like, you know, and not even like that old, but like Salma Hayek's here looking incredible with gray streaks in her hair. But like these are the stars of yesteryear are on the stage. And then even the awards that are going out are not anointing a new crop of like dewy-eyed stars, which the Gold Globes used to like to do, sort of stake a claim on a new young actor or actress. So yeah, it's a very interesting situation we find ourselves in.
Well, every year at the Globes, there are two best film winners. There's musical or comedy and drama. This year we have an interesting crop. I asked you at the end of our last episode how many films would be nominated for Best Picture from drama and how many would be nominated for musical or comedy. I also asked you what would come first and what would come second in the telecast. This year they closed the show with musical or comedy, which is what I thought would happen. And I thought that Wicked would win because of this and have a big triumphal hooray for Hollywood kind of a moment.
Yeah, but that's the Steven Soderbergh, and we do no.
That did not happen. That did not. Emilia Pérez
we
won.
We don't reorder based on expectations.
Yeah, and you know, Emilia Pérez is a movie we've talked about it quite a bit, Joanna, in the last few months. It's a movie that obviously is doing extremely well during award season. We saw it do extremely well at the Oscar shortlist, did well at BAFTA shortlisting, and it's won here. It won a couple of awards tonight, and I thought either Wicked or Anora were really the only options. And this has dispelled that. Mm-hmm. I'm still trying to personally sort out if that means anything at all. You know, you mentioned the international voting body power, Joanna. I think that that's a factor here when we look at Best Actress in a Drama. You can also see that as a factor pretty significantly. But I was surprised. I picked Wicked, and if it was not going to be Wicked, I thought Anora for sure. What was your reaction to the Emilia Pérez win?
But also there were indicators throughout the night. I mean, Jacques Audiard did win for international feature. Zoe Saldana won for supporting actress, and then sort of won for El Mal, the original song, or at least she got up on the stage for part of the absolutely endless acceptance speech for what was original song at the Golden Globes.
Mm-hmm.
So the momentum was there. And I just, as you said, Emilia Pérez or Perez, which everybody switched on the emphasis. Mm-hmm. I guess if we're speaking in the original language, we're honoring the accent. If we're speaking in the English language, we're not.
Sharon Stone, I think, was using the French language because she read that it was the French submission.
Absolutely.
Right.
Said Perez.
Perez. Yeah, sure. You know, listen, we're all international now. It has been on every list, everything. It has been incredibly persistent. So I wasn't that surprised. I think I was more surprised that Anora totally blanked.
It did. Not a single win for Anora tonight.
Yeah. Wicked, you could tell from the acceptance carnival for box office achievement. Yeah. And it reminded me a little bit of, I can't remember which awards show last year gave some sub-tier win to Barbie. I think like Barbie won Best Comedy or something. And then there was a very long acceptance speech. And
I think it was for cinematic achievement, was it not? Didn't Barbie win cinematic achievement?
Yeah, it won the box office award.
Yeah. I have no sources here. I'm wondering if these individuals get tipped off that it's the only time they're going to be on stage, because both circumstances have been this is my moment to give a speech.
Well, for John especially, I think they handed over to John because he's like been so blanked in however like Wicked is being received, and we all know
that's not
how
true.
Sean
the
Amanda
National
feel
Board
about
of
Wicked,
Review
but like
said that he was the best director of the year.
But that John is not going to get an award anywhere, and that if he's going to get a chance to give a speech, it's going to be here. Yeah. And that was the sense of that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I wasn't surprised by Emilia Pérez winning, again, because they nominated it so many times. I didn't really necessarily want it. I'm glad it won international. I didn't necessarily want it to win because I feel very mixed about the film itself. And I think there is a weird, I haven't talked to a lot of people who like this film, so I don't understand why it keeps rolling along. Zoe Saldana winning makes a lot of sense to me for other reasons, but there is almost this just sort of like, you know, rolling downhill momentum of Emilia Pérez that does not feel connected to anyone's emotion about that movie. You can make an emotional connection case for The Brutalist, certainly, for Wicked, for Anora. You know, I've talked to people who love, both inside the industry and out, who love those movies. And I'm just having a hard time finding people who love Emilia Pérez and think it's the film of the year outside of people who work for Netflix.
Yeah. While we were watching the show after this win, you said to me, it's like, what is this movie really about? What is the message of this movie? What was the artistic intention of this movie? And like, you can take it apart. I have a fairly cynical and ungenerous reading of the movie, the way the movie works, but that it's a movie about like not burying your inner self, right? And becoming the self you always were meant to be, to become a better and more fully realized person, which I think is an idea that if it is resonating with voters for the Golden Globes or voters for the Academy Awards or BAFTA or whatever body, whatever group of artists are voting on this especially, I think that makes sense. I think it's a very similar story for The Brutalist, which is a movie that maybe has a completely different emotional reputation. And obviously I have made exceptional light of the Brutalist boys gag here. But I think what you saw tonight in this film winning a bunch of awards, winning, frankly, the 3 historically big male awards, the best film for drama, best director, and best male actor in a drama, very, very sincere people, you know, who are very sincere about art, sort of achingly and perhaps ridiculously sincere. But like the 2 movies actually, when you put them next to each other, even though they have basically nothing in common superficially, they're about this kind of like belief in something that people like us tend to turn our noses up at, you know, that we tend to be like a little bit above. And I find it interesting that like something like Wicked or even something like Conclave, which is such a confection. It's such a Hollywood product. It's a good Hollywood product, but it's a very Hollywood product, very classical.
It was the basis for many, many jokes tonight. Funny jokes, including "I'm popular," which even I got. That was funny.
Enjoyed
good job,
that,
good job, Nikki Glaser. But certainly tonight, and then throughout this season, I mean, a conclave is applicable to so many things, but there is something that people can latch onto with it.
Yes, just think of the meal Billy Crystal would have made of Conclave. I mean, he really would have soared with
when
cardinal
she came
material.
Out, when she was doing Popular, I got which was a good bit because she, lampshaded that it was a bad bit, but I got such strong Billy Crystal nostalgia.
Yeah,
it made me really hurt and miss him. And that era. I think to your point about earnest messaging, something that, we were talking about a little bit as the award show was going on, something we've talked about before the award show, something everyone says is that the Golden Globes is a really good chance to audition for your Oscar or cement your narrative. Kieran Culkin has been the only main front runner. And while the Globes, even in their new era, are not indicative necessarily of any wins at the Oscar, they are a chance for a gangbusters acceptance speech to sort of turn the tide. And I think there are a few that we've already, talked about off pod that we'll talk on pod. But I think what Brady said about the Brutalist and setting up the Brutalist now in a way that Sean has been for a while as a battle for the soul of Hollywood, essentially, a vote for the Brutalist is a vote for the director's cut. I don't think it was cynically done, but I think it was effectively done. And similarly, Emilia Pérez comes out as this, staring down the barrel of a Trump administration moment in Hollywood. And is this going to stand as a reaction to that in some way? So that idea of messaging and positioning the larger narrative, which has just become increasingly important, over the years as we've all three of us have been covering the awards race, this idea of what's the story here? What's the narrative for this win? Kieran doesn't have one, but he's already a lock, so that's fine. But Adrian Brody had to create one, and he did. Demi Moore got a chance to create one. Zoe Saldana got a chance to create one, and so that's what the Golden Globes in this larger awards conversation, as you two will continue to have, really effectively does.
What do you make of the Brutalist win? You haven't seen it, obviously. You're seeing it this week.
Yes, I was about to give away what day.
Feel free.
Are you excited?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yes.
Or are you apprehensive?
I'll drop a pin and share it on Twitter when you go.
So thank you to the Big Picture community who has been reporting back on their experience at the Vista. And Joanna, I have to say, I'm mostly anxious about the line and how long one has to wait in line at the Vista while having already purchased a ticket to get in. So that's kind of where I am right now. And I feel like whatever's going on with the bathroom lines should also be applied to outside the theater. That's what I think.
Okay,
that's
sure.
just, one woman advocating for all of us.
I'll speak to the committee that organizes movie theater lines on your behalf.
Thank you for championing women, Amanda, always.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, here we are.
Yeah.
Just doing my part. No, I'm curious. It is, and I've been trying so hard to avoid media about it, both because I don't want it to be spoiled and also because, there's a certain flavor to some of it that I think could turn me off. And I don't want to do that. I would like to go in with as open a mind as I can for someone who absolutely loathed the film Vox Lux. But tonight, it didn't put me off. Actually, the three wins. And, it was teetering on the edge. And even, final cut tie, director, whatever. I was like, oh no, we're going to a bad place. But it came back to a point of real sincerity. I mean, the inclusion of the daughter who looks exactly like him and her little face just in the frame. The crying during
my
Best
heart
Director.
was going to
explode.
It
was beautiful.
The girl dad just jumped right out.
Listen, I'm a monster, and I was totally moved. It was great. And then when it won Best Drama, just the way the acceptance frame panned out, she was just like right there in the corner looking just like him. And I was like, okay, this is coming from like a real place. So my heart's still open, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's a tricky one, right? Because I think all movies, we have preconceived notions, right? Yeah. And this one in particular, I think, has done an amazing job of having a narrative around its length, which we heard from the announcer he's probably still talking right now, the guy who was announcing after the wins of the Golden Globes. Golden Globes producers, if you're listening to this episode, never again.
Cut it out.
That producer that person who talks when someone wins, cut that out. We don't need that. We don't want that. No one wants to hear factoids while someone walks to the podium. Do not do it.
Some years create a moment of famous person. But sometimes they get didn't they have they had a famous person do it one year and it was like actually kind of entertaining.
They're not getting Leonardo DiCaprio. It was like Neil Patrick Harris. Like it doesn't. We don't need that, Joanna. Make a moment of quietude before the speech. That's the whole point of award shows. Trick us into thinking this matters, and it's not a fucking episode of You Don't Know Jack.
I can't let Sean's awards show Bible draw me in right now. We'll get to it later. I don't disagree with you on this. I didn't think that those comments were very good.
Sean, there was a bird fact about Nicolas Cage when he came out on stage.
Good.
Pop-up video forever, okay? We're children of the 90s.
Geodesic dome that his pet, what kind of bird was it?
It was a...
crow, I believe.
Thank you, Jack. He was a crow.
Thanks, Jack.
His pet crow. First of all, Nick Cage, you're the real one. Thank you, Nick Cage.
Correct.
I just dispense with all of the facts. I don't want any of that stuff.
Geodesic dome.
Hugin. Okay.
Hugin.
That's, according to Google, but this is not,
that's the crow's name.
But that's also what I got when I Googled Crow Hoover, so I don't know whether I'm misleading.
No, it is Hoover. The crow's name was
according
Hoover.
to Rolling Stone right now, it's Hugin.
Wow.
Whatever.
This is what happens when media is eroded in the way that it has been. We can't even figure out this crow's name.
Wait.
This is shameful.
But so, the thing about the voiceover, which you said in the moment, besides it being not good, was describing The Brutalist as a 3.5 hour epic with an intermission, and the very, very solemn 3 wins tonight for The Brutalist made me, Amanda Dobbins, a professional film watcher who's probably derelict in her job for not having seen it yet, excited to see the movie. Does it make anyone else in the United States of America excited to see this film? I don't know.
Well, one of the things that Brady said that I thought was interesting in his second speech was, as he was valorizing Final Cut and talking about the intention of empowering filmmakers, is he used the phrase, "It worked." My movie worked. My plan worked, which was, if looked at in one direction, you could be like, wow, this guy's really full of himself. If you looked at another direction, you could be like, this movie just made $1 million on 8 screens in a week. And now it's probably going to make north of $10 million, if not more, at the box office just in this country, which, to his point, that is a movie like this working. And I think it's not dissimilar from the sentiments that were shared by Cord Jefferson at the Academy Awards last year, right? When he was like, there's a middle ground. There's a $20 million movie. There's a $30 million movie. Let's not forget about these movies. I think he was really more in the spirit of that ultimately than I'm a genius and should be always given Final Cut.
Yeah. I didn't think he was saying I'm a genius. I think it reminded me of the conversations that have been bubbling around Nosferatu or Complete Unknown, the successes that we've seen at the end of the year with strong visions from directors that we know and love and who have been sort of building a resume. And Brady Corbet is not exactly that yet, though this has certainly anointed him into a new level. But I think that was the idea, is just sort of let artists be artists. And even at the Golden Globes, where we gave out a box office award to Wicked, we can still have genuine artists win across the board here. And similarly, something like Shogun, which yes, I mean, we're not here to talk about television, but or Baby Reindeer was the sentiment. This is a sentiment of this wasn't expected to be as massive as it was, but we were allowed to execute our vision. And in a Hollywood that is increasingly terrified to let artists be artists, that seemed to be the emerging message of the night.
Totally. And I agree with all of it. And when I say that I don't know how broad of an appeal it had, I didn't mean believing in filmmakers. I just meant a 3.5 hour small indie art house movie. And, that applies to The Brutalist, but sort of across the board for the wins, which,
totally.
I think we like a lot of the wins. It's very cool that a lot of these smaller films are being recognized. But if you're tuning in and you're not a devoted listener of this show or a devoted Letterboxd user, are you connecting?
But that's
go ahead, Joanna.
Well, I want to say two things. Number one, Amanda, I just want to let you know, and maybe I've already expressed it on this podcast.
Yeah.
I don't love The Brutalist. I like thinking about The Brutalist, and I like that it exists, and I like how much Sean likes The Brutalist. I like that for him. But like, I personally am not enamored of I thought Adrien Brody was really good. I'm really curious to hear what you think about it. So I'm not saying like it's a perfect film, and anyone who says it isn't is wrong. But to your point about do we have to appeal to the masses? We want everyone to go to the movies. This is like, we love the movies. We want everyone to go. But I think this is the conversation I know that you and Sean have been having, and like all of us who've been covering awards have been having for years, which is like, yeah, we want a Top Gun Maverick nominated. We want people to like get excited, but like, or is that era over? And should we just lean into, honoring the movies that really say something and do something, and not worry about, well, what will the wide appeal? Because the massive, everyone's tuning into the Academy Awards moment seems to be, I feel like, gone forever. We're not getting it back. So instead of trying to grasp at it, should we just lean into Emilia Pérez and The Brutalist, et cetera,
Well, just to that point then, let me just say the names of the films that won awards tonight.
Okay.
Because I think you're pointing out something insightful here, Amanda. Emilia Pérez, A Real Pain, Conclave, Emilia Pérez again, The Substance, A Different Man, Flow, The Brutalist, Challengers, Emilia Pérez again, Wicked, which was a box office win, I'm Still Here, The Brutalist, and Emilia Pérez. So
A24, Netflix, A24.
Setting aside the original score win for Challengers, is Conclave the highest grossing film? And maybe The Substance is the highest grossing film on this list.
It might be.
That's kind of fascinating.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, this is not voted on by a very large body. It's only 300 or so people that are voting, and they're mostly journalists and critics. They don't represent what SAG does or DGA or BAFTA or any of these other bodies that we'll see in the next 2 months. But it's fascinating that for this big fancy TV show, that like fucking Flow won. Flow, this
Flow
tiny
rules.
Latvian animated
a
feature.
win for cat people.
Yeah, which
Loved
is
it.
up against a Pixar billion-dollar movie, and The Wild Robot, which is a big sensation, and Wallace and Gromit, which is one of the most celebrated animated story types like that we've had in the last 30 years. And fucking Flow won. So, and this is the Globes.
Right. But it's the new
quite
Globes.
Strange.
It's the new Globes. And like, Amanda's right. Of course, Amanda's right perfectly. And it's a great point. But I guess my question is, I'm kind of tired of worrying about that.
I'm not worried. I do think it is extremely notable, though, in part because last year, I don't know if this is going to be true this year, but last year, the template felt very set, but the Globes more or less exactly predicted the Academy Awards. And if this is the Academy Awards this year, I'm going to be like, yo.
Strange, yeah.
The thing that we have been talking about and saying like, oh, well, we got to keep people involved and how do we get back to 40 million people? Like, then the book is closed on that conversation. Like, closed. Like, I shouldn't even bring it up to you anymore.
I want to be clear. Don't put it in the newspaper that I'm mad. I'm not concerned.
Yeah.
But, I will say this is an interesting awards year because for the last 3 months when the season really starts heating up, I have been on the sidelines and I have been catching up and sort of participating as a civilian and listening to you guys and trying to catch up. But I do feel like I'm coming to it slightly more as
like a civilian.
Yeah. And
a woman of the people.
Yeah. As
many
I
people
always
are saying,
have been.
yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes. Speaking for everyone.
Yeah. A populist.
It's not that I feel turned off. I'm just a little like, okay. You know, and I thought that feeling was because it has been such a scattered awards year, and I think it was a scattered movie year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like we all had our things that we really loved, but there hasn't really been a center. Or maybe because I was like, well, when I catch up, I'll understand. But maybe it's just kind of a strange year, and that's okay. And it doesn't, you know, the Golden Globes will live or on, and the Oscars will as well. But it is a
strange year. It's of course a strange year post strikes, and there are a number of other factors that are contributing to it. I think one thing that is probably worth citing, and of course I'm always in some sort of doomsaying mode because I'm inherently negative as a person. But just because we're awarding...
Should we get you a girdle?
Yeah.
Would that help?
Literally, what do you think a girdle does?
We're in perilously close to holding my arms in front of me territory.
That was the Golden Globes last year.
It was, yeah. I'd better not say. What movie I just watched a movie and someone was saying that I think it was Nick Holt had to wear a girdle. No, Aaron Taylor Johnson wore a girdle every day during the production of Nosferatu because it was meant to show the posture that a man of his stature in that time period should have.
Or was he trying to gain just a little bit more height to get closer to Nicholas Hoult?
Yeah, well, he should have gotten some lifts to make that happen because he was a solid 5 inches below. We stand Nicholas Hoult, our favorite.
We love
Joanna. Okay, so the thing that can happen is, fine, Jack Nicholson, he's gone. Meryl Streep, Denzel, that's never coming back.
Denzel was in the room tonight. They showed him for like 1 second during his category.
We know that era's over, right? We're in a different time. Netflix has all this spending power. Streaming has messed with movies. People don't care about movies as much as they did even 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. It's all settled. What still will happen, which is, of course, the foolishness of award shows and all of our investment in them, is that they'll award smaller films and, in theory, better films, but then they'll also just give their big prize to Emilia Pérez. And, so that's a movie that nobody saw and nobody, Joanna knows or I know, think is good. And so then you're like, all right, so we're obscure, but we're also not giving Anora or The Brutalist the best picture either. You know, so it's a bit of a conundrum in terms of justifying its own existence when the films are small and bad. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen at the Academy Awards. If Emilia Pérez wins Best Picture, I'm not going to be pumped.
No.
But
I'll be so confused. I'll be confused, and I guess I will just have to eat my words that I said on this podcast several weeks ago about Netflix never crossing the fact that they would cross the finish line with Emilia Pérez.
Totally.
And not all the other great films that have almost gotten there for them in the previous years, Roma or like Mank or whatever the case may be.
It goes back to the spirit that you were conjuring while Amanda was out, though, Joanna, which is that if it does win, it is that international thing.
Yeah.
It is Jacques Audiard, who is a widely acclaimed French filmmaker who's won the Palme d'Or and, who I said while we were watching the show, I'm like, this guy's made some great movies. I can't believe this is going to be the movie that he's going to get celebrated for in America. This is so strange.
It is on Netflix where it is available just widely to everyone immediately. So in some ways, it's like a proof of distribution as much as anything. I mean, I will also be surprised. I think we got one step closer to Zoe Saldana performing El Mal at the Oscars tonight. And you all know how I feel about that.
So
I'm pro that. Especially if she what if she stands on like the chairs, like, she does in the film, she stands on the tables. What if she goes out into the audience and starts pointing at the people in the audience?
I think it would be better if she did it with choreography than if she just stood on the stage and performed it. Because I would say, despite the very handsome couple who won a Golden Globe tonight, songwriting is not one of Emilia Pérez's strengths.
That was the other moment when Amanda completely disrobed during the telecast, was when Clément Ducol appeared on screen.
There were several other moments. Listen.
How many layers did you bring?
They're a very handsome French couple, They just showed up.
She had great hair. She had like great European hair.
She had French lady hair for sure.
When Trent and Atticus won, I was so excited.
I was dancing. That was one where the announcer kept talking over. I believe that was Match Point that played during, because that's the one that I run to. That's on my running mix.
The tune, that was the name of the song. Yes, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross won for their score for Challengers, which we all love, which is amazing, and is frankly I guess Trent Reznor is very famous, so you could say it does have the veneer of old Globes, but the guy who sang Head Like a Hole is not exactly Frank Sinatra. So I there's something unusual in even these more obvious choices.
To me, it all felt very online. And I know that you were like, no, this is more about
for a lady who is awfully online.
I'm online and then I'm offline. But you know what? Sometimes it was my only portal to the world for the last 3 months. So, I liked seeing what the kids are up to.
Yeah. And you were like haggard old Demi in the kitchen watching Margaret Qualley on the talk show every night.
Wow. And I basically was,
We all are. That's the problem. That's why that movie works. We're all Demi.
But I think if we were awarding very online, it's very online award punditry and not very online, all the kids are talking about Nosferatu right now.
Right.
Or, the movie that would solve all of this that came out this year is Dune Part 2.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that a movie that was extremely popular and critically acclaimed and has great artistry going for it is completely vanished is one of the biggest mysteries. I mean, I understand why. It's a part 2. I understand the whole sequel question, but Wicked is here and it's a part 1. So that doesn't fully fulfill the prompt for me. And maybe it's just that it happened at the beginning of the year and that feels like a million years ago and one whole presidential election ago or something like that. But Dune Part 2 just completely vanishing is such will remain an award season mystery to me.
Was Denis Villeneuve even in attendance tonight? It didn't seem like it.
He's not nominated.
Zendaya was at the Luca Guadagnino table, which is where I would have chosen to sit. Were anyone curious?
Yeah.
No, actually,
did you not get invited to that table?
I think I would pick the Conclave table, to be honest. Those guys were having a great
Rafe
time.
was having a ball.
They were right next to Tucci. And then Lithgow, they were 1, 2, 3. Yeah. That looks like the fun
my
table.
Boys, yeah.
Yeah, but so that table was right in front of the Complete Unknown table, which is where Timmy was seated. Next to Kylie Jenner, by the way. I just want to note for everyone that he brought Kylie Jenner as his date. So,
right?
I know that, but it's they haven't walked. They attended last year at the same time.
They attended last year, and that was a whole thing of them.
It's
sort
a
of
thing,
whispering.
It's not like they're.
Do you think they're in love?
I hope so.
Cool.
He's a wonderful actor. I am desperately curious what they have in common, and I would like to know. And maybe
I believe they have Riz in common.
Yeah.
Listen, and that's great, but will it last a lifetime?
I would guess that they have spent 120 hours together total. That's it. And that's not even this is a fake relationship. This is just do you understand their celebrity lives?
I'm so back in on Timmy. I'm not.
We're not in on Timmy. Who?
No, but my question is, are we underestimating Kylie?
Yes.
That's my question.
The interviews I've seen with him, I'm like, this is my guy. This guy is pure comedy to me.
My time measurement is not a judgment on either of them. It's just that they're both really famous. Yeah, they're busy.
Yeah.
Celebrity relationships are not like our relationships. They have not.
What do you
spent
think
that much time
is
together.
Kylie's favorite Dylan record?
I mean, which?
Do you think Desire is celebrating an anniversary today? Do you think she's into Desire?
When he was prepping.
Can I throw a Dylan take at you?
Yeah.
One more cup of coffee is what everyone thinks knocking on heaven's door is. Bang. I do this for a living.
Wow, you just standing ovation. The listeners at home just loved that take. I promise you.
I saw that movie.
I still got my fastball. 3-year-old in the house, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm still cooking. It's 9 p.m. Feels like roughly 4 a.m. right now.
So I saw the movie and then I listened to the A Complete Unknown podcast. And you and Mallory, once you start going into the history, minute 90 of that podcast is some really intense stuff. You
wept because of how sincere and thoughtful our takes were?
And you, no, I listen. I am glad that you guys love something. And that also you're way more sincere about everything with people other than me. So
I know. You bring out the worst in
I know.
me.
Isn't
No, it's just a different side.
I disagree. I agree that he's more sincere, but you obviously clearly bring out the best.
I know, but you're just warmer and nicer and just sharing your feelings about Bob Dylan with everyone, which was a little much. You
wouldn't have allowed me to do that,
I liked it very, very much. Okay. And I think I agreed with you most of the three. It's really just some performances.
Well, but did we talk about it, Joanna? I don't know if we talked about it.
You and I have talked informally about it, but I don't think we talked about it on the pod that much.
You did like it though.
I did. I did like it, but I didn't love it. It's not great, and it's not even as good as Walk the Line is. So
that's interesting. You agree with that too?
But I thought Timmy was really good.
I think they're very different movies. They're interesting together. Obviously, they're two representations of Cash. I actually think Boyd is a better Cash.
I mean, but he just gets to be the foil and charisma, and he doesn't actually have to do the whole like.
But you said you were listening to the soundtrack, and there's a version of Big River that Boyd sings, and I'm like, that's fucking Johnny Cash, man. He sounds like Johnny. Joaquin does not sound like Johnny Cash. I wasn't
listening to the soundtrack.
You just said that. You said you pulled it up.
No, I listened to the podcast.
Oh, the podcast.
And then
they're different.
And then I played Highway 61 for my son.
Is this a podcast?
But I played Bob Dylan, not Timothée Chalamet.
They're different, but they're kind of the same in that, like, Mangold was sort of trying to recreate a lot of Walk the Line inside of this Dylan. I think all of the love triangle stuff feels very much reaching for Walk the Line.
Totally
and even
to the
way
point
that
he repeats a song that he uses in Walk the Line that is like a duet of tension.
Beautifully.
In Walk the Line is repeated again in this, which was like a wild.
And the way that Dylan and Joan Baez meet in A Complete Unknown is exactly the way that
crossing paths
Cash
after performance.
And Carter. Yeah. And kind of like the banter from the stage. Speaking of Joan Baez, why are we not talking about Monica Barbaro? Why was she not nominated tonight? Like, listen, as you said,
I don't know. We really needed to nominate Selena Gomez. That's why.
Elle Fanning winning an award for that performance is one of the wildest things.
I was watching and I was like, wow, she's very good. They have great chemistry. She's so beautiful. This can't be her singing. That's okay. You know, you can't have it all. And then like she's singing. That's her. Mm-hmm. She's unreal. What are we doing?
I said it when we did the episode. I was floored.
Also, as you said,
that's the hardest voice to nail. There's not a harder 20. I mean, I guess Maria Callas is the other person who would be the hardest 20th century woman to nail. And as we know, Angelina Jolie did not perform those songs.
But also, you said that you went to a Q&A and she said that she learned to sing, which I just like, does that mean like, is it a learnable skill? Like, can I be Adele if I try hard enough?
It's not too late for you, Amanda. I support this new dream of yours. And I mean,
I can't. I think she was amazing, but what are we doing? I learned how to sing, and that's what came out.
I agree. If Colin Farrell can win an award for wearing prosthetic makeup, then Monica Barbaro can win an award for singing.
I'm so sorry to tell you, the Penguin is great, and he's great in it.
I started watching it over the break, and I've been enjoying it. I'll just say.
It's really good. And Christine Milioti should have won in her category.
That's a fun part. You love her. Palm Springs.
Yeah, I'll never watch that show, but I'm happy for all of you. And I thought his acceptance speech was very charming, as is the way with Colin Farrell. So
just to put a button on this conversation, I thought Timothée Chalamet was going to win.
So did I.
And Adrian Brody won Best Actor in a Drama. Now, for whatever reason, I've been telling myself that this won't happen again. You know, Brody won. He was the youngest winner ever in that category. Everyone agrees he's a great actor. This is a big upswing moment for him in his career. And, you know, he is magnificent in that movie. There is no movie without Brody basically turning his soul over in the performance. So it's not like it's a good win. It's a notable win, I guess. And this is something that does happen with acclaimed actors is they have these waves in their careers. So they win once when they're in their 20s. And then, you know, look at Denzel Washington. He wins for Glory. And then many years later, he wins for Training Day. Or did he win? He did win for Glory, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And so it's not unusual, but I just thought maybe just because I was so gobsmacked by how solid A Complete Unknown was and how terrific Chalamet was, that the tides would turn on
And the run that he has been on. Right. There has been just like an absolute coronation. He is our new Leo.
Right.
Right down to sitting next to Kylie at the Golden Globes.
Right. So we both predicted it. Were you thinking Chalamet was going to win, Joe?
I definitely thought Timmy was going to win. And like the thing, I don't think it's not sewn up that now Adrian Brody is going to win. It's just like,
it's not.
It was a big step forward for him and his campaign. It was a moment for him to create a narrative, which he did when he said, I never thought I'd get the chance to win something like this again. And then talked about, his family, the immigration angle and stuff like that. Like that was his moment to create a narrative that Timmy has the coronation narrative, but he doesn't have the comeback narrative, which has proven to be the most potent award season narrative, which of course Demi Moore made a meal of in her acceptance speech, which was, I think, inarguably the speech of the night. But Zoe Saldana similarly gets up and creates her narrative, which is like, I've made you all millions and millions and millions of dollars. I've done all of your Pirates and Marvel movies and all of that. And this is something I care passionately about. And don't I deserve to be here? And so that feels so much more solid than it did before. But yeah, to go all the way back, to Best Actor, I think it's interesting now. And I wonder what Timmy can do, because Timmy is running. He's running.
Yeah.
And the interesting, like, Amanda, rightly so, sort of when we were going back and forth while watching, was talking about like all the people who are crying over their Golden Globes in sort of an overwrought way. But like when Zoe Saldana had her initial reaction to the win, to me in my head, I'm like, she knows she's going to win an Oscar. Like they read out her name. She was at the front of the pack, but not cemented. Kieran was cemented. She was sort of like almost there. They read out her name. She's like, this could happen. I could win an Oscar for this. And similarly, when Adrian Brody won, Timothée Chalamet gave us sort of like, welp, which is, I have a lot more work to do, I guess, sort of reaction.
Yeah,
like to me.
I was going to ask you, you rightly identified, like, Adrian Brody, like, figured out his angle. He has, it, if we're continuing the campaign narrative, he has a stump speech. I don't know if he nailed his audition tonight, though. Like,
no.
This speech kind of took a while to get there. There was 100%. Some Georgina Chapman in there where I was like, okay.
He landed it. Though. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
He landed it. Midway through, I texted a friend of mine who covers award stuff, and I was like, Adrian's not nailing his audition.
No.
And then he finished the speech, and I felt like he really sort of brought it back. He did not nail it the way that Demi and Zoe did, but I think he made the case for himself.
Demi, for me, was the strongest. And that, to me, this went from, I don't know if she's going to get a nomination, which in retrospect was stupid, to that, and that was my mistake. She could win.
She could win
tonight. Yeah. And that happened tonight.
That hadn't occurred to me until tonight either.
Zoe Saldana was a little, I think I agree that it kind of solidified tonight, but I was like, are we peaking too soon here? And that might just be because of the amount of tears. As I texted to you guys, like, we have to stop crying over Golden Globes. They're not Oscars, I don't
even know who she's up against in this category. Ariana Grande is going to unseat her? I don't think so.
I mean, I guess not.
I think, I said it to you earlier tonight when I saw Emilia Pérez in the fall. My immediate reaction was like, not so sure about this movie. I'm a little iffy on it. It's a lot of movie. I think that's a phrase that I used. But no matter what, Zoe Saldana is amazing. I had no idea she could do this in this movie. That was my sincere reaction. And I think that's how a lot of people are watching the movie. They're seeing the movie and they're like, whoa. The choreography, the singing, the rapping, and then shifting into hard dramatic performance in the middle of a movie like that, which is an often silly movie, is pretty impressive. I don't even think she needed to do... I think she could have given a completely banal speech and it really would not have mattered that much personally, because I don't think that the competition is as stiff in this category as it is for Demi Moore and as it is for Adrian Brody.
I agree. There were just other little narratives bubbling. Like the Isabella Rossellini narrative was like bubbling for a little while. The Ariana Grande narrative has been there, but like didn't ever really feel like solid.
Was it Zoe Saldana who was like, Isabella, I stayed at your house once?
She did.
I had dinner at your house.
I had made it. Yeah, I had dinner at your house. That was good. That was good. It was still too much crying for me. We're all Jennifer Lopez not winning her Golden Globe, in the documentary.
Do you think before you die you'll win a Golden Globe?
And in what category?
I don't know. Will you buy it for me?
That wouldn't be winning.
I think the closest competition she has in this category right now, actually, if the Brutalist narrative catches fire, is Felicity Jones, because the Brutalist sort of narrative could spread to. It's not going to touch the supporting actor.
Wife,
Kieran
but
has
it's
that,
not.
But like, yeah,
it's the wife, but it's not the normal wife, right?
Well, let's talk after you see it.
Yeah.
Let's have a conversation after you see it.
I suggested that possibility to Amanda on Friday on the show, and I think I was just talking up my Brutalist fantasies a little bit because I'm not sure if there's enough there. And obviously people have more issues with the second half of the film, which is really more on the Felicity performance side. Sure. But it's not unreasonable. The Isabella Rossellini one would be quite silly. It doesn't mean that she doesn't give a good performance in Conclave. She does. She's just really not asked to do a whole lot.
She's barely in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
it would be a thanks for your career Oscar.
Yes.
She Googles extremely angrily
Absolutely.
and extremely memorably.
Yes.
She stands and she glowers.
So the two Oscar memes that I need that I don't have yet are, number one, Isabella Rossellini pulling something up on a computer and leaving the room silently, which is like me during what I want to do during every podcast. And then, has no one made a complete unknown, like, gazing face mashup of just like flashing at everyone's like really fast over and over again? Can I commission that?
I haven't seen it, but I'm sure you could get a fan cam going. Yeah. What Bob's tune should be played over that fan cam. Right, but then it's
just like speed of light, all of them all at once, just looking at him like, oh, I love you, 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 I love you.
It's a trope that is used also in Walk the Line, but exceedingly so in A Complete Unknown. I get it
they all look
very
beautiful while they do it, so that's okay.
Yeah.
The gift that I would like to commission, if we're just sending that out into the ether, and we do it sometime on House of R, so I approve, is if anyone has Willem Dafoe grabbing the cat at the end of Nosferatu, I would like that.
That's a good one.
Please.
Okay. Other notable awards. I mean, we mentioned that Demi Moore did win for actress in a musical or comedy, defeating Mikey Madison, who you and I both predicted, who has been the headlong frontrunner for months and months. Anora going home empty-handed, and Wicked going home sort of empty-handed as well, aside from its box office achievement victory and no acting performances being recognized either, is interesting. And I don't really know what to make of the Best Actress race, because on the drama side, we've got Fernanda Torres from I'm Still Here. And that is another win that feels, on the one hand, not Globesy at all. And then on the other hand, we learned, or we were reminded that Fernanda Montenegro, her mother, was nominated 25 years ago for another Walter Salles movie, Central Station. So there is that classical kind of Golden Globes. We are a generation of generations of movie makers and artists, and, is Fernanda Torres a Nepo baby? I'm not saying she is.
I do.
But I'm not saying she's not.
Right. Yes, with Miss Golden Globe forever. I do also think that, I believe it was Rebecca Ford from Vanity Fair who noted that someone from the Golden Globes Association told her that there are a lot of Brazilians on the voting committee. And as you pointed out to me, Sean, the Brazilian film contingent is very proud of I'm Still Here.
They're very passionate about the film.
I have not seen.
Yeah.
So
the Brazilian people, I will just say, let me paint it with a wide brush, and I'm so sorry to Brazil, but I'm about to compliment you, are the most passionate fans I've ever encountered in my life.
Come to Brazil.
In any genre. When they care vociferously. And so, yeah, the Fernanda Torres narrative has been zooming around, but it was more like, let's get her nominated, not let's get her a win. So I was shocked and excited. I thought we were going to get like a classic Globes, like a Kidman win. That's what I thought it was going to be.
That was my prediction as well.
Yeah.
And neither Angelina Jolie nor Nicole Kidman winning in that category is a real, like, these ain't your mom's Globes.
Yeah.
These are different Globes. And that's a good thing. I mean, the Fernanda Torres film, I'm Still Here.
Stop slandering moms.
What do you mean?
These ain't your mom's Globes.
These ain't your granddad's Globes.
Thank you. I'm here speaking for everyone, but also the moms.
I'm a mom guy. I don't know what you're talking about. I love moms.
Okay.
The Fernanda Torres win is interesting. I'm Still Here didn't really work for me as well as it has worked for other people. I've said, like, the four films that were anointed as the international films that everyone agrees on this year, which I think is like All We Imagine Is Light, See the Sacred Fig, Emilia Pérez, I'm Still Here. I couldn't get in any of those four films. And this one too, which I felt like
not American enough for you.
No,
you're
like, how dare you?
Just kidding.
No, but it's fascinating that, like, these awards races are just changing so much that someone like Fernanda Torres would not just win at the Globes, because I'm not sure that means anything, but we should be, like, seriously considering her for a Best Actress win at the Academy Awards. For a film that, very few people have seen this movie. I don't think it has gotten more than New York, LA release at this point, right, Joanna?
No, but I think there's still a chance that she might not even get nominated. Like,
for sure.
But, like, Demi is definitely getting nominated out of tonight. Like, I will do something.
Once again,
I don't know.
Paltrow, Patient Zero. your insubordination, your surprise Best Actress nominees.
So then let's explore that, right? Yeah. Because for Best Musical or Comedy Female Actor Performance, I feel pretty good about Cynthia Erivo, Carla Sofia Gascon, Mikey Madison, and Demi Moore being nominated. Do we think that those 4 will be nominated for Best Actress?
Carla's the only question for me, but after tonight, maybe it's not a question at this point.
Yeah, and she got to have the big closing moment of this show, which is notable. So then there's 4. That leaves 1 spot from the other women who are nominated in motion picture drama, unless there's another wild card out there that I'm not thinking of. But Pamela Anderson, which I think is unlikely. Angelina Jolie, who's been in the race hard the whole time. Nicole Kidman, who's, I would say, has been right on the outside of the top 5 for the last couple months. Tilda Swinton for The Room Next Door. Fernanda Torres, and Kate Winslet. So if you're choosing one of those people, who is it?
If it's me, it's Fernanda Torres. But I could see it being Nicole,
Yeah. I think Fernanda Torres is smart again from the international, voting base. But then there's the part of me that's like Kidman always finds a way.
She does.
So
she really does.
She does in so many ways.
Yeah.
And
wait till you find the ways that she finds in Baby Girl.
I'm tomorrow.
She finds some new ways.
You haven't seen Baby? Oh my God!
No,
I cannot wait for the Amanda Baby Girl take.
I mean, I'm
excited.
I'm extremely excited.
Coming soon to
Paris
this
Dickinson
podcast.
was not in attendance at the Golden Globes tonight, or at least he was not on camera.
The Demi. Okay, so the Nicole Kidman thing. When I was sort of reading through people's predictions for the Globes, a lot of people were mentioning that Nicole Kidman had such a good TV year. And I was like, what do you mean? Expat was terrible. But then she had a Netflix hit, and then she's also in Lioness. And so she is around on the TV front. And then I was thinking about, for my sins, for my friendship with Mallory Rubin, I have just in the last week watched all of Landman, which I really wish I hadn't. Mm-hmm. But next week is the finale. And they're setting it up for Demi Moore to have a big finale moment in Landman, which is a massively popular show. And so in terms of her momentum, I was thinking about the Matthew McConaughey True Detective, Dallas Buyers Club year. If you have a big TV year, it can really push you over the line if you need a little push.
I was just saying that on the playground this morning with my daughter's friends' parents, Landman was the talk of the space.
Yeah.
At the monkey bars, it was all about Landman. Everyone's watching Landman.
Terrible show. It's a really bad show, but it is.
You will have to speak to CR about that because I've only seen one episode.
I have. We have been texting about it.
I will say Ali Larder innocent, no matter what.
The only thing I want to say in response to that is that Demi is having a big TV year, but Nicole Kidman's also having a big Netflix year, because in addition to the Netflix TV show A Perfect Couple, please do not forget A Family Affair, the Netflix film in which Nicole Kidman,
cinematic masterpiece,
falls in love with Zac Efron.
Yeah.
Right? Yes. And it's one of 2 times that she plays a best-selling book author.
Before we get too far into this episode, I'd like to mention my favorite win of the night, which is Sebastian Stan winning for
fantastic
Best Male Actor in a Motion Picture Musical or Comedy.
Happy.
Which is, again, not something I would have ever predicted. And another symbol of a somehow changed Golden Globes. This is a very, very small movie that not a lot of people have seen. Obviously, he was also nominated for his work in The Apprentice. And he's a great actor. And he's, of course, a very famous guy. He is Bucky Barnes, after all. But I thought he gave a good speech. And
that was a great speech.
Yeah.
I'm now could this happen?
I don't know.
Probably
could this nomination happen?
I don't think so.
Because it's definitely Adrian Brody, Timothée Chalamet, Coleman Domingo, and Ralph Fiennes, right?
Agreed.
Yes.
And so that it's either Daniel Craig or Sebastian Stan, right?
I think that's right.
And so
Daniel Craig is more famous and more beloved, but Queer is not as beloved.
Is there someone outside of the box beyond those 2 that we're not thinking of?
Well, I was wondering if there could have been a Jesse Eisenberg push, but he did not win tonight. That was something I was thinking about as I was making predictions.
And A Real Pain just didn't feel like the Kieran win is the Kieran win, but A Real Pain did not feel like it was present otherwise at the ceremony, right?
No, not really. It didn't really have any other moments. And even the Kieran moment didn't feel like... I thought actually he spoke nicely of Jesse and the script and the movie, but another movie that not a ton of people have seen that I guess probably is going on Hulu pretty soon. If it's not already there, is it even there now? And by Hulu, I mean Disney Plus, which is where all Hulu content goes now. So
it's not also on Hulu?
Well, it is, but they like everything is on Disney Plus now. They're like, please watch Shogun on Disney Plus.
Oh, so I don't need to have my Hulu app anymore?
I don't think. Is there anything that is not of it that isn't available on Disney Plus at this point?
I don't think
Joanna?
so. I think all of Hulu is over on.
The thing is, I'm not really using. That's not true. I do use Disney Plus for Mary Poppins.
There's Hugh Grant, which does not feel like a possibility as much as we love him. No. Girdle or no girdle. There is,
Bill Simmons was asking me on his show on Friday if Heretic could get into the awards race at all here. I was like, I don't think so.
No,
I think it's on the outside.
I think if it had any chance, it would be screenplay. But I don't think it does have a chance at screenplay.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
So I think it's the main issue with Daniel Craig versus Sebastian Stan. And I was talking to our friend of the show, Katie Rich, about this. Because I was like, she's like, I don't think Sebastian Stan's getting nominated. And I was like, tell me why. He just gave this wonderful speech. We love Sebastian Stan. He's a Marvel star and he's tremendous in these two films. And she's like, he's competing against himself. So Daniel only has to represent queer, but Sebastian Stan might split the votes on his own two performances.
Yep. Didn't stop Steven Soderbergh from being nominated for Traffic and Aaron Brockovich.
Sure didn't. But
and you know what happened there? Ang Lee came through, right? The Golden Globes and just snatched it away, split the vote.
Okay.
Tough one. Hate when that happens.
But if we get Oscar nominee Sebastian Stan, I will be thrilled.
That would be very exciting.
That would be
Daniel Craig's been working very hard and wearing a lot of Loewe, and so I've really enjoyed press tour Daniel Craig. So I'll miss that, but I'm sure he'll keep getting hired.
Let's quickly talk about best screenplay.
Okay, this was weird.
This was Conclave's sole victory. This is the only movie, I believe, that is an adaptation. Is that right? I guess Emilia Pérez was an opera.
It was an opera, yeah.
I haven't read the novel. Your mother's read the novel. Maybe we should call her. I don't know how much of a... It sounds like it's very similar structurally to the novel, from what I understand.
Are you asking the question like how much should we credit this adaptation?
I guess I just don't know. It's unusual when it sticks out like this alongside a bunch of original stories. Anora, The Brutalist, A Real Pain, The Substance, which are all originals, which is something that I tend to overemphasize on the show. And they don't split adapted screenplay and original screenplay at the Golden Globes. Why? I have no idea. The Globes are doing whatever the fuck they want to do. Why are there only 6 nominees for supporting actor and actress and 12 lead actor? I have no idea. Why is this the rules? I don't know. They're doing whatever they want to do. The Conclave win, I thought could have meant one of two things. When it won screenplay, I was like, oh, interesting. Well, sometimes that's what happens. They'll match a screenplay win with a drama win. Or you'll have screenplay and then you'll have best actor and then you'll have drama. Like you see a lot of tic-tac-toe formations historically. It turned out that the tic-tac-toe formation in this case was actor, director, and best picture for The Brutalist. So I'm not really sure where Conclave stands. I will say I read a Megyn Kelly tweet, which was very scornful of the film Conclave. And when I read that tweet, I thought to myself, that smells like a best picture winner. Someone who, a film that the far right hates, that will become a cause celeb in an awards race. We've seen this story before. But now, and the Globes may not be impactful in that respect, but just one win felt a little scant to me.
Yeah, I know we keep saying, no, I don't think, I think Conclave is dropped in its chances. But in terms of its screenplay chances, or this is a screenplay win, I was reminded that Aaron, I know this, we're talking about this is new Globes, not old Globes, not your grandfather's Globes, but Aaron Sorkin has won 3 Golden Globes for film screenplay. And this was like such a Sorkin-y type of story that it seems like sometimes it reminds me of when the movie, sometimes the movies that get nominated for sound or win for sound are the movies with like the most sound or the movies with the most editing. So like, is it the movie with the most talking that is going to win a screenplay award sometimes, occasionally.
If it were old Globes, I would have expected Conclave to be kind of has the feel of prestige and is fancy and Renaissance paintings and celebrated actors, but is kind of a trashy airport book dressed up with hats.
Mm-hmm.
Great hats. Should we
gowns.
Should we wear hats for the
cardinal hats?
Yeah.
I want Tedesco's vape. That's what I said.
You in a tux.
Yes.
Sean in a gown.
And Sean as Tedesco, yeah.
And then cardinal hats.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a war. I was so happy when I saw that they used that scene to show Peter Straughan's writing in the film Conclave. I love that scene. I wish Tucci could have had 5 more scenes like that in that movie. Yeah, I don't know what to make of where Conclave stands. I guess it does feel like it's falling a little bit, but it's also it's impossible to know how indicative the Globes are in any given year because last year they were wildly indicative. The year before that, a little bit less so. The year before that, Fabelmans won drama and not Everything Everywhere All at Once won comedy. I can't even remember what it was, but they didn't predict that race at all.
Right.
And so both of those administrations were the new Globes. So it's a little bit hard to say. I think we'll learn a lot more as we get SAG, PGA, DGA, and then BAFTA's winnows down its list.
Can I ask you how you feel about Wicked right now? Should we I
don't think a lot has changed. It's a good question.
Is the good witch here in the room with us?
Yes.
Galinda,
show yourself.
Amanda wants another chance to unload on Wicked.
No, I think old Globes would have been like, well, that's over because
now this is a critics group now. That's what this is. And Wicked is not a critics movie. It's a populist film. And the thing that is good for Wicked, I think, is that at the Academy Awards, there are a lot of other categories where Wicked will be recognized. On the flip side, costume, design, makeup and hairstyling, production design, you're gonna all that. It's going to be on down the line. It's probably going to get 6 or 7, maybe even 9 nominations. But the film that won cinematic box office achievement last year was
Barbie,
and this could very well be Barbie.
Yeah.
In fact, it probably is this year's Barbie,
and it should be. That's where Wicked should be.
Barbie is better than Wicked, Joanna.
Barbie is way better than Wicked. I love Barbie. You know that.
Say it again.
Barbie is better than Wicked.
There
it's very easy for me to say. Yeah. No problem there.
Yeah.
It's not hard for me to say either. I didn't love Wicked. I liked it better than I thought I would. Is how I feel about Wicked. But
did you know the animals sing?
I did. Is that what broke you? It's so early to break you in the film when
I didn't know it was coming.
Singing.
Yeah. And I will also say that was a goat, right? I thought the goat was Rupert Everett. And then when I found out it was Peter Dinklage instead, I think it would have been cooler with Rupert Everett.
Okay.
What a compliment for Peter Dinklage's terrible English accent that you thought it was an actual Englishman.
It was ridiculous that they just had him Tyrion all over again. That was ridiculous.
So bad.
It was someone being a goat, I didn't think Rupert Everett was putting his whole heart in it.
That's fair. Really phoning it in for the goat role in Wicked, yeah.
I'd just like to cite 2 very funny joke moments from the monologue that I enjoyed. The first was the Selena Gomez, Benny Blanco's genie joke, which was mean but great. And the second was the Adam Sandler Chalamet, which I just... That's Nikki Glaser is a woman, or the person who wrote that joke is a person who understands Adam Sandler, and Adam Sandler is a person who understands the moment and knows how to come through.
The fact that Sandler came in on the bit is what made the bit to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It was slightly floundering, and then he came in and I was like, this is the best. This is wonderful.
There's no one better.
I thought it was a good monologue. Again, this is my introduction to Nikki Glaser. Good job. Very successful.
Will you explore her works?
I don't know. I mean, this is good, right? We have something.
You're settled?
We have something nice. We have fond memories.
Okay. You heard it here first.
Well.
Drop dead, Nikki.
Thing. Yeah. We had one great date. Why have another?
Yeah.
We'll hold on to the memories. But it was never fully mean. It was a little sharp, but never mean. Most of the targets were industry, streaming service, that sort of things, as opposed to people. And the people, with the exception of a couple, Diddy jokes that I don't know if we needed them.
A little soon.
Yeah, or just like, was it that funny? I don't know. Even the glancing ones were amusing. Like whatever the Ben Affleck joke was about things
he calls out in bed.
Yeah. That was funny, and Ben Affleck can handle that.
He can take it.
I need to call out a very important cultural moment, which is when Vin Diesel acknowledged The Rock, and The Rock shot daggers back at Vin Diesel.
This was going to be my closing discussion point. Thank you for perfect timing, Joanna. No, perfect timing, Joanna.
No, if you want it to be closed, it's not closing. Joanna and I have one more moment.
Okay, why don't we do Dwayne and then we'll do Andrew?
Okay.
So,
drama and then comedy. Is that what
you're saying? Vin Diesel presenting the cinematic box office achievement. If it is a knowing gesture to his works, and then him coming forth and saying, I'd just like to point out that I am the man who has worked with Steven Spielberg and Sidney Lumet and many other great filmmakers, and while dunking on Dwayne Johnson, sitting in the crowd, who I guess is there to promote Red One, I got to tip my cap.
Moana 2.
But that movie's coming out in like 11 months. We're going to get another Dwayne. We're getting the Smashing Machine before we're getting Moana 2, right?
Moana 2 is out. What?
Oh, I'm thinking of the live action Moana. Moana 2, you're right. Moana 2. You're right. Moana 2. I guess that's true. I guess
it's not playing in your house?
You know what? She hasn't called for a viewing of the film at home.
Oh.
Because we do have a screener.
Okay.
But
she calls for them? Does she call you?
She rings the bell and says, Master, come down. Please turn on. Yeah. That is how it feels sometimes.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, you're talking about
Vin. Vin dunked on Dwayne Johnson. And Vin Diesel just sucks. He's terrible. And he makes bad movies. The Fast franchise is horrible. I hate it.
Also,
but he kind of won.
That introduction alone was 45 minutes.
It felt that way. It went on and on and on.
He fell asleep on stage twice.
He was incredibly self-important. And yet, he was kind of victorious in that moment.
In that one moment.
Yes.
I think he won briefly. One of my favorite award season things is that they bring people out to promo their new thing. Mm-hmm. Were there any upcoming projects that you were a little bit more interested in because you saw the stars of it present an award tonight?
You were tingling when you heard about the Gorge, and I explained the premise of the Gorge. You were like, "Good God, this is the last time I saw Michael Keaton. I feel something extraordinary."
I was honestly looking at Miles Teller and was wondering whether he got dressed, what his Sunday was like, and where he watched the Eagles game, and how he fit that into his prep. And
he definitely had Vikings Lions on his iPhone, exactly. In between presentation. Yeah, no question.
Go
Sadly,
Birds.
I did not.
Hi, Miles.
That's right.
Yeah,
big Eagles guy.
Yeah.
I don't think there was a single thing that was being promoted that
I'll go back to Seth Rogen and Catherine O'Hara and say the studio on Apple TV+.
I am excited for that show for sure, and that. That whole bit, Seth and Catherine O'Hara are favorites of mine, but it felt like they just wrote it together instead of the Golden Globes writers.
100%
right? I mean, I was
this
is Seth's comic voice coming through in this bit. So yeah, I'm looking forward. That's a good point. I'm looking forward to that show.
There's a few moments of that, Nate Bargatze, definitely wrote his bit, and they gave him a stand-up mic to come out. They let him feel comfortable in his own. So there are a few moments where it was clear that the people actually wrote the bit. Not you, Kate Hudson and Mindy Kaling, but Seth Rogen and Catherine O'Hara just really.
I gotta tell you, Kate Hudson delivered her half with gusto.
Yeah, but Mindy,
I mean, I'm with you. Yeah.
Should we talk about Andrew Garfield?
So I actually was in the bathroom.
Sean was in the bathroom, so he missed this. He missed it.
Did you show him the video I sent you?
I've seen it many times now.
Okay,
so you've watched it.
I have.
So let's start with the glasses. With the reading
a very
glasses.
Good place to start.
Put some context around what you're talking about. You're making it sound like it's a recitation of the Bible or something. It's like an actor got on stage at an award show.
What was he presenting?
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
No, it was Demi. It was Demi because he was in the background of Demi's speech. That's part of the whole thing.
Right. So he gets out there and turns to the very close camera, finds his light, as he does, and pulls out the frames. I don't have an ID on the frames, but I'm sure
it's all over people's reading glasses. Yeah.
Horn-rimmed at the very least, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And he's not looking directly in camera, but he knows he has his angle to put on his reading glasses while he is fiddling with the button of his shirt to make sure it's properly undone to show half of his chest and his pendant, which I have been reliably informed is a David Yurman pendant, in case anyone was curious.
Pendant that matches the emerald green. And by the way, emerald green, really the color of the night. A lot of green suits on the guys, some great green gowns. That's just my Vanity Fair coming through.
A glowing emerald around Rachel Brosnahan's neck that I noted with interest.
I was going to give you a moment to talk about Rachel Brosnahan if you wanted to. She looked wonderful.
I made an old man comment while I was like, "Hello, Lois.
Yeah,
how are thee?"
Exactly.
Yeah, she looked amazing. I can't wait. So
you
Superman.
Understand how we feel. You understand how we feel. How you felt about Rachel Brosnahan.
But I also feel that way about Andrew Garfield. Like, I also will make out with Andrew Garfield. I'm on the record about that.
Let me be very clear that part of my reaction is like the Andrew Garfield experience these last 3 months, which I was on the sidelines for. The whole We Live in Time press tour, the horse, the chicken date,
Elmo. Oh my god,
the Elmo. I mean, the Elmo is when I sent
crying.
Incredible.
The modern love, the crying, like. My guy is out here, and it has really been something to behold. And the level of self-knowledge and intention with which he angled that pendant right into the camera and then put those reading glasses on, like, my guy's having a great time at the parties tonight.
I want to shout out, very on brand for Big Pick, I think. His stylist is Warren Alfie Baker, who is also Glenn Powell's stylist. And he is maybe my favorite. Like, I actually don't follow a lot of stylists, but like the work that he has done with Andrew Garfield and Glenn Powell has been extraordinary. And you can kind of tell his work when he works with other people. But when you rewatch Demi Moore's speech, which you should, because it's a masterclass in Golden Globe speechery, please watch Andrew Garfield realize when the camera is on him and watch him adjust his stance and sort of be aware that he is in the background of a shot.
He's an actor, okay?
He knows where his light is and he finds it, and we love that for him.
Good for him.
So, yeah.
I'm very happy for him. He was up for no awards whatsoever.
And yet he won anyway.
And yet he won. He made a very memorable appearance.
A related important question I need to ask Amanda. Mm-hmm. Emma Stone's hair.
Yeah. I mean, she looks beautiful. You know, if anyone was made to do the pixie.
Yeah, the Jean Seberg. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She looks fantastic. I loved the dress, like the styling and everything that went with it, I thought, and the color. So very pro.
Reportedly, because her head is shaved in the film Begonia.
Right.
The new Lanthimos movie coming out next year.
Is she going to make movies with anyone besides him?
No.
Okay.
No, I spoke to her. She said, I'm just going to do 48 more Lanthimos films. They're all sequels to Kinds of Kindness. Yeah, okay. They're just going to tell that story for another 50 or so years. Did not see Jesse Plemons
once on the screen. I saw.
Was he there?
Well, Kirsten Dunst posted a photo of her getting ready and her hair being done. So
I hope he's having a tall whiskey right now.
I didn't see him on the screen, but I saw him on the red carpet.
Okay.
And he looked, nice in a tux, but suitably rumpled as he always does.
Did I miss all the awards for Civil War? Was I in the bathroom for
You were in the bathroom, yeah.
Shoot. It's a shame.
Too bad.
Any closing thoughts? Will you return to the Golden Globes again next year?
Sure.
Hoping to win?
Have me, yeah. It's my year. I'm available to be a seat filler.
You know what's going to be really painful?
What?
When you defeat Jennifer Lopez at the Golden Globes. That will be your ultimate triumph.
Wow.
God. Did you see Soderbergh on his annual culture list?
Mm-hmm.
He watched both Jennifer Lopez's musical length, music video, whatever.
Feature films.
Sure.
On Amazon.
It was 40 minutes long.
Yeah.
And then he watched the documentary. He is a completist.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen those, Joanna?
I have not had the pleasure.
Okay.
Would you recommend?
Joanna, you really need to watch the documentary.
You think so?
I would say clips. You don't.
You actually, listen, I mean, there is a lot more access than I would have given, especially where I Ben Affleck. Mm-hmm. But he's in there yelling about cameras. So it's quite something. And Steven Soderbergh has seen it. If it's good enough for Steven Soderbergh, is it not good enough for you?
Can't we all agree that that's what the Globes should be?
Yeah.
What you're describing of the Jennifer Lopez documentary is what the Globes should be. The Globes were famously like a drunken like free for all where the booze was not flowing the way that it needed to be. I don't know what to tell you.
It was a little staid. And then I don't have any idea where the Oscar race is going to go. So,
do you think Fernando Torres is shit-faced right now? Somewhere, clutching a globe.
That's the social clip, guys. Please clip Sean saying, "Do you think Fernando Torres is shit-faced right now?"
Joe, anything else? I mean, do you think this is actually going to impact the Oscars? I guess that's the thing that we're going to end up talking about. You do.
I think you should be feeling really good right now, Sean, because I think The Brutalist is in a really good position.
Oh, congratulations.
Well, I don't know how to feel about that. That's interesting.
Your takeaway isn't, though, that Emilia Pérez is coming for everything that isn't Demi Moore's Oscar?
Power positive thinking. I'm going to say I would rather The Brutalist over Emilia Pérez. So, yeah.
So interesting. The Brutalist does kind of sort of fit the mold of what I think the Academy is now.
Okay.
Kind of, sort of. Not entirely, because it's obviously gesturing at an old style of Hollywood film, but it's also gesturing at a completely different European
we all like The
style
Godfather,
of film.
You know?
I know, I think it's a little bit of a red herring about what the movie is. I think the movie is way more a European version or like a George Stevens movie from the 50s than it is a Coppola movie.
Okay.
But I could be wrong. People would disagree,
I think Brady winning director feels very big to me. Anyway.
Yeah, I thought he did very well, and as someone who is a big fan of that movie, and I really liked talking to him when he was on the show, I had the same concern that you did, where I was like, "Ooh, don't be too pretentious, don't be too eyes agog with your own vision," And I think actually reading his speech weirdly helped a lot.
Yeah, I was
when
nervous.
He won Best
Again,
Director.
you gotta print these things out, everyone. Okay. Not on the phone. But I completely agree. No,
I'm not going to disagree with you. I'm going to say Jacques Audiard getting out 3 pages of the paperclip made me so scared. But he only read the top page. Yeah. But he was going for so long, and he still had many more pages paperclipped together. And I was like, "What are we going to do?"
It was in 72 font though, so it was okay.
I was really worried. Yeah, who would you have said was the best director frontrunner before tonight in the Oscar race? Sean Baker?
I think he and Sean Baker have been 1 and 2 the whole time. And both of them are the vision peak guys. And I think
with Mikey no longer being necessarily the like solid frontrunner,
right?
Like this was a real falter for Anora and a real leap forward for The Brutalist is what I would say is my takeaway.
It was. I still think Mikey's going to win. I still do.
I think
this is a very different group.
I think it depends how Demi plays
the next few weeks.
The Demi win will feel like the Jamie Lee Curtis win in many ways. And then we'll look back, and I think the Demi performance is superior to the Jamie Lee Curtis performance in Everything Everywhere All at Once, but has a similar kind of framework. Like, this person is a kind of a genre legend and a Hollywood legend,
right?
That was like
we're acknowledging their body of work.
The Michelle, it was all of this.
Michelle Yeoh, same thing.
But
all of them
in a movie that is also doing that. So to me, at least, it's like the project is the idea at the same time. So if she wins the Oscar for the substance about I'm like, okay,
right?
It adds up.
What was your favorite win?
I as I said, I really enjoyed Colin Farrell, but that was for a TV show I will never watch. So
yeah, Tanks.
and craft services, Carolina, that was lovely. That was really,
and the coconut water.
Yeah. He's shouting out Andrew Scott in the movie we made 25, 30 years ago. You can't find on Betamax.
Yeah.
Incredible
Very
moment.
charming.
Yeah.
That's my answer.
All my Irish homies. Love those guys. Joe, favorite win?
Can I give you a TV win on this film podcast?
Yeah, of course. Please do. You are the TV expert in this.
Tadanobu Asano for Shogun.
His speech was awesome.
Yeah.
It was very short, and I think he said, "This is such a great gift," or "such a great present," and it was like, "Peace out."
Yeah.
And I think that's how most speeches should be.
And his translator came out with him, but he didn't use her, and he just like soldiered through. And he was snubbed for the Emmy when he should have won. So this is like a real Shogun won all the same things they won at the Emmys plus Tadanobu, and this is like I loved him. He was wonderful. So my favorite.
Great pick.
What was your
How about
favorite?
you, Sean?
Sebastian Stan was my favorite. I think that was the most
was a good
unexpected and
Okay.
cool, and I thought he did very well. And it would be exciting to see him get recognized because he is one of the only MCU IP actors who actually uses his powers for good and makes interesting, challenging films, and I appreciate that.
I mean, Zoe Saldana, let's give her some credit. And then
she did
also,
the same thing. She absolutely did the same thing. I totally agree.
And did you see that we got like fact checked on our Chris Evans take, Sean?
What was the take?
That his upcoming projects, he's doing a Celine Song film, and then I forget what the other one is, but he's got like a couple really good upcoming projects.
He's the star of Materialists, which is coming out later this year. Alongside Dakota Johnson, and who's the third? It's a film about a matchmaker.
Pedro Pascal, right?
Pedro Pascal. Inspired by Celine Song's stint as a matchmaker, a professional matchmaker. So that'll be an interesting movie. You're right, though. Chris Evans does have 2 cool movies coming out.
You guys were, you were a little.
We were tough. We were tough on Chris.
Chris Evans is your guy? Since when? He's been doing this show for years. What are your favorite Chris Evans performances?
Well, I like
loves
Captain
First
America more
Avenger.
than the other one.
She loves a Boston guy. Okay. Amanda loves a Boston guy.
I don't know.
It's true.
I was listening to it and I was like, well, this is kind of mean, you know.
But you didn't.
Did you spend any time watching Red One?
You didn't watch Red One.
Ghosted. No, my husband did. I opted out of that experience.
If you had, you would have known.
Sure.
We were entirely justified in our discussion.
We were.
Okay.
But if Materialist is great, I'll be back on the train. The whole point of that conversation was this guy was in Knives Out and Snowpiercer and Sunshine. He knows what is good.
Right.
Make good movies. That's all I want.
Okay.
I don't want to end
We'll
this note
let
on
him know.
dissing Chris Evans again. Yeah, he's your guy. You can call him. I would say a mixed award show in terms of the quality of the telecast. I liked the host. I thought she would do well. She did do well. Just a very high-minded and mostly very good set of awards.
Yeah.
It's just really funny. I really thought you were going to come on here and like gloat, Sean, because I really think
that's not what it's about. I'm not trying to exclude anyone. I think that that's a great film and people should try to meet it where it wants to be met. Like I have no interest in like lording any of this over anybody because nobody's even seen this movie yet. And when they see it and they understand that it's not me, a sad podcaster, like trying to do a bit, it's actually a way more sincere and sophisticated story about pain, then they'll understand like why it's winning awards like this. But then again, Emilia Pérez won too, so who the fuck knows?
Who knows?
Okay, well, we'll pick up this conversation again. You're not done. You were trying to insinuate somehow that you're like not coming back for the rest of award season, but you're definitely coming back, and we'll find out when the right times are. You definitely have to keep helping us power rank Best Picture nominees. You've taken us this far, Joanna. Okay,
that sounds like a joy to me.
Okay. Thank you for staying up with us. I really appreciate it.
Lovely to see you.
Listen to Joanna on the myriad podcasts that she hosts here at The Ringer. We used to let her name them, but we won't do that tonight. Thank you so much to Jacques Sanders for his video production work and the delivery
and for a coffee cake. It's really nice. My last podcast before leave, there was a coffee cake from Bobby, and the second podcast back, but a coffee cake from Jacques. It's very kind of both of you, and it's delicious.
Bobby was also a giver of this coffee cake as well. Thank you to Bobby Wagner, our producer on this podcast, for his work. We'll be back very soon. In just a few days, we'll be discussing the film Baby Girl once you've had a chance to see it, and we're going to build a Hall of Fame for Nicole Kidman. And I'd like to tell you something. I believe Nicole Kidman has made 45 movies this century.
Yeah.
That's not a joke.
No,
she's also starred in 5 television shows. And she is the face of AMC in this century.
And are television shows eligible?
Well, I don't know.
Okay. Oh, this is exciting.
Because who has a bigger and broader and bolder CV than Nicole Kidman? I'm not sure if anyone we've ever talked about on the show does. But we will talk about it very, very soon. We'll see you then.